Hey guys, how's it going? Jacob here. Welcome back to another Doctor Who video on the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my top 5 favorite Ninth Doctor stories. Christopher Eccleston, the first Doctor upon the show being revived in 2005. He was only there for one series, but he definitely had plenty of good episodes that are still memorable 13 years later from my perspective. Whenever you guys are watching this, maybe later on, but it's all timey-wimey. I had to. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with number one. And first of all, these are in no particular order because I don't like ranking sequentially like that. I just like to say they're in the top 5 without an order. But number one is going to be Rose. I had to debate on this one. It was either going to be between Rose or The End of the World. But as I talked about it more, I realized that Rose actually does a lot. And it's not just because it was the first episode back, is because it just felt so good to be able to see all these things. And even though like I'm a youngin, so I obviously never watched the classic era as it came out, I can just imagine what it would be like for people who grew up watching it as a kid back in the 70s and 80s, and then after all this time to get to see this stuff again. And I really liked how upon well, first of all, I just really liked Rose's first interaction with the Doctor. It just felt so great. Christopher Eccleston just did such a great job of commanding the scene. I just felt like it was really great watching it. And then how after the first time Rose and the Doctor parted ways, how Rose was curious who is this person, so she wanted to find out a bit more. So over time she started to do a bit more investigating, trying to figure out who the Doctor is, but she didn't start doing that until whenever they met again, because they literally just happened to meet by accident. The Doctor was tracking the signal from the plastic arm from the Auton, which, by the way, that's something I want to mention. How I thought that was really cool. How it was the first episode back, but they brought back the nesting consciousness and the Autons. I thought that was really cool. How they used a classic era enemy instead of just creating something new for the first episode. But then how the Doctor was tracing the signal from the arm, and that ended up making him meet Rose. And whenever they were just walking around and he was explaining what was happening, and then how Rose was willing to listen, and then how he was talking about how he can feel the turn of the earth, I thought that was really meaningful. And then how he left, and then like in the background you saw the TARDIS and you saw him head towards it, but they're trying to downplay it. And then later, whenever uh, Rose and the Doctor ended up running into each other again, and then they were running away from the Auton that took Mickey's form. And then whenever the Doctor was like, "Oh, here, how about we hide in here?" and then Rose is like, "That's not gonna work." But then she panics, so she decided to run inside the TARDIS too. And that moment, whenever after so much time you get to see the TARDIS again, after so many years, Rose goes inside the TARDIS, and that feeling of seeing it's bigger on the inside, it's just such a great feeling. Like, it's basically almost what it would have been like back in 1963. It's something you would not have thought of if you were new to the show. And I just thought that was really great. And then I like how the Doctor went to try to uh, communicate peacefully with the Nestines, but they were thinking that he was going to attack them because he had the anti-plastic. And then how he almost died, like he realized, I'm not going to get out of this, but then Rose came in and saved him. So I thought that was really great how right off the bat you saw the companion come in to help the Doctor. Like, and how this was so new to Rose, but she was still willing to help out. I thought that was really great. And then the interaction that they had after they were done. How, like, the Doctor invited Rose, and then he just casually said about Mickey, he's not invited. And then he was saying that it could travel anywhere in the universe. Like, it doesn't just travel across London, it could go anywhere in the universe. And at first Rose says no, so then he leaves. And then, like, even though this isn't directly mentioned in the show, how it turns out that the Ninth Doctor actually traveled on his own for like 900 years. But then, or not 900, my bad, 100 years. And then he came back, and that's when he said, by the way, did I mention it also travels in time? And I thought that was just really cool how it ended with Rose running towards the TARDIS, how after all this time, after the Time War, the Doctor finally has a companion again, someone that he can spend time with and trust like Rose. And let's face it, like, you can say what you want about Rose Tyler, but I just think she's a great companion. People like to complain about Billie Piper coming back, but you know what? About coming back so often, but I just think it's a treat. And I mean, she doesn't do it that often. Like, get over yourself, man. Like, she's a good companion. But number two on the list, I feel like this has got to be on almost anyone's list if you're creating a top 10, like a top 5 Ninth Doctor stories. It's got to be Dalek, because I mean it did what had to be done. It brought back the Daleks, and I really like the idea how it went into further detail about the Time War. Like, we knew that it was a thing, but we didn't really know what happened. And then how the Doctor was saying that the Time Lords fought the Daleks. So then it's like, okay, that's how we know that the Time Lords perished. And then how the Doctor makes the big reveal saying that he's the one who made it happen. He's the one who destroyed the Daleks and the Time Lords. So then the interaction between the Doctor and the Dalek, how they're both realizing that they're the last of their species in the universe, at least at that time. And then how the Doctor was, like, how you could tell that the Doctor still wasn't quite over the Time War because he tried to destroy that Dalek. And then how later, whenever Rose went in there, and how she felt kind of bad for the Dalek because of how it was being treated, and then she decided to show it sympathy. And then whenever she touched it, it turns out that background radiation ended up healing it. So then it was able to break free, and then it started going around killing everyone because it was saying, okay, I don't have superiors or inferiors, so my main goal now is just to kill. So then the Doctor kept trying to reason with it, saying, what's the point? You're the only Dalek. It's not going to achieve anything. Like, you can't be the mightiest race in the universe if you're the only one. And then how over time you saw the Daleks start to hesitate to kill because of how it interacted with Rose. And then how the Doctor was trying to mount an attack on the Dalek because he was saying, no matter what, I need to kill this Dalek, like, because it can wipe out everyone on this planet just on its own if I don't do anything right here, right now. But then how it was about to kill Van Staten, but then it realized that it couldn't. And then, like, it realized that because it had absorbed part of Rose's DNA, it had taken in some of her emotions. So that's why it had started to change. And then it told Rose that all it wanted to do was see the sunlight because it had been trapped down in that cell for so long now. And then Rose managed to take it up to go see the sunlight, but then the Doctor shows up and he's telling Rose to get out of the way because he was pointing a gun at the Dalek. And then she was saying, look, it's changing. It's not what it used to be right now. And she's saying, Doctor, what are you changing into? Because this was a darker side of the Doctor that she didn't think that would ever come up. And then he realized that, like, he's starting to turn back into, like, his self from the Time War. Like, he's getting violent, always, like, now he's just trying to think that the main solution is just to kill it. And, like, it's just because he's it's out of desperation for the fact that all of his people are dead. But then how he realized that the Dalek really did change, but then how he actually showed sympathy for it. Like, he was saying that he's sorry because of the fact that it was developing emotions, and that's not good for a Dalek. And how the Dalek was saying that this isn't life, this is sickness. So he had Rose order it to destroy itself. And then I like that confrontation, how, like, it was saying, are you frightened, Rose Tyler? And how she said yes. Not because of the fact that the Dalek is a deadly species, but because of the fact that she knew that it was about to kill itself. And that's when that Dalek said that it was also frightened. And then how it felt like, okay, this Dalek destroyed itself. Now it feels like it's the last, like, there are no more Daleks left in the universe, which then obviously we found out wasn't true. It was far from true. But I just liked how they built that up. And then how the Doctor was saying the Time War is over, I win. But, like, you could tell it's kind of a hollow victory because the fact that his own people are gone and the way that that Dalek decided to kill itself felt very hollow. So I just thought it was really great how they brought back the Daleks and seeing how it played into such a bigger role in the Doctor's life than whatever happened. And minor note, I liked how they had that Cyberman head in there. I thought that was pretty cool. How then later on they brought in the Cybermen. They referenced that moment in this episode, but I thought that was really cool. I just thought it was really great bringing back the Daleks like this. I thought that was really good how you got to see the one-on-one interactions between the Doctor and a Dalek instead of him taking on, like, a whole fleet of them. I thought it was really good. So, number 3 is going to be Father's Day. And I just thought it was really great because you got to find out a lot more about Rose's past and the different possibilities about what could have happened. So, Rose wanted to go back in time to, excuse me, I had an itch. be able to be by her father's side upon his death, because her father died a long time ago when she was young, but her mom always said that no one was there by his side, so it was really sad. So whenever they go back in time, then the first time she's too afraid to go and be by his side. But then Rose says, "Can we go again?" because she felt bad that she messed up. So then the doctor's saying, "Okay, you need," like, because then their past selves were there viewing what was happening, but then they were there viewing what was happening alongside their past selves. So the doctor said, "Okay, we need to be really careful because we could really mess up our own time stream if we interact with our past selves." So then the car was about to hit Rose's dad, and then it was like this big shock because Rose panicked, and then she decided to try to jump in and save her dad, which then not just messed up the time stream because her dad died when he shouldn't have, but also because then she interfered with her own past as well as the doctor's. And then, like, the doctor was really mad at Rose, which I thought was interesting because you saw, like, this big fight between the doctor and Rose. Like, he felt like he'd lost a lot of trust for her. Like, he was saying, "Oh, when I first met you, you decided not to come with me, but then I said that we could travel in time." So he kind of lost trust for Rose, saying like, "Oh, is this just this big plan to come save your dad?" And then Rose was saying like, "No, I promise it was an accident," and saying like, "What's the big deal? My dad gets to be alive again. He's just an ordinary man. It's not like he becomes a dictator." And then the doctor, like, the line how he said, "An ordinary man is alive that shouldn't be. That's the most dangerous thing out there." Saying like, even if he's just an ordinary man, he's still alive when he shouldn't have been, so that could be dangerous. So then I thought it was also interesting how you got to see Pete and Jackie interact. Like, you realize how much struggle they had. Like, Jackie wasn't really happy with Pete, but she still tried to make it work. And then how Pete showed up with Rose because he was like, "Oh, she just saved my life." And then you could tell that Jackie was jealous because she was like, "What the hell are you doing with this other woman?" Especially because of the fact that Rose was still so young. And then how the Reapers started to show up because of the fact that there was that distortion with time, how Pete was alive when he shouldn't be. And the doctor said normally the Time Lords could come fix something like this, but now since they aren't here, the Reapers come to feed on the damaged time. And then because time had been damaged, then the doctor went back to the TARDIS because he was basically saying, "Okay, Rose, because you betrayed me like this and you don't realize what happened, I'm going to leave you." So he decided to go back to the TARDIS, but then it turns out that the TARDIS was, like, the TARDIS itself had become damaged. It was no longer bigger on the inside. So I thought that was really funny, just seeing that, how, like, even the TARDIS was affected by it. So then the doctor kept trying to think of a way to fix it. Like, he even felt kind of bad for Rose because he realized that it was an accident. So he was trying to figure out a way to fix time, but also keep Pete alive. And then I just liked how over time Pete started to realize that there was some kind of special connection between him and Rose. And then how even on his own he realized that what was going wrong with time was that he was supposed to die. And then how once he realized that Rose was his daughter, I thought that was really special how they interacted. But then, like, how whenever Jackie came over and she was like, "Wait, this is your daughter? How sick are you? Did you have her when you were like 12?" So I just thought that was like really awkward. It's like really tense. And then how the doctor, he was willing to sacrifice himself because what he did was he had a TARDIS key. So he was going to summon the TARDIS to the church to try to, like, bring everyone in there and keep them safe. So he was trying to charge the TARDIS key to summon the TARDIS there. But then what happened was Pete accidentally gave the baby version of Rose to the older Rose. But then, the Buenovich limitation effect kicked in and such. So that weakened the structure of the church, and that allowed the Reapers in. So then the doctor sacrificed himself so that the Reapers could feed off of him because he was the oldest thing there. So I thought that was like really crazy, seeing that the doctor had died, sacrificing himself, and then they were saying, "Okay, there's nothing we can do now, we're all dead. The doctor was the only one who could save us." And then Pete was saying, "There is still one thing that I could do," because outside the car that was supposed to hit Pete was still circling. And then Pete realized that it was just time waiting to fix itself. So Pete was saying, "Look, Rose, I'm your dad. It's my responsibility to protect you. I know that I can't be there to protect you in the future, but I can at least do this for you now. So Pete goes out there and he sacrifices himself by getting in front of the car so that he can die. But then this time, Rose had the courage to be there by his side, which I thought was really meaningful. How this time Rose was there to comfort her dad upon dying, and then how Rose's dad knew that this was his daughter that was with him upon his death. So I just thought that was really meaningful. I thought it was really nice. And then how just the doctor and Rose, whenever they left, it just felt like it was kind of a bittersweet thing. How it's like the doctor's been restored and Rose and the doctor have made amends with each other, but then how Pete still had to die. I just thought it was really great seeing more of Pete's past, or not Pete, Rose's past, and then seeing like the doctor and Rose's relationship kind of being put to the test, because this was like the first time they really seemed to butt heads with each other on it. But overall, a good episode, definitely worth being on the list. Number 4, I believe, is the two-parter known as The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances. Probably one of the best rated episodes of the series in general, just because of all it does. First of all, it was really great getting to see Jack, because this is the first time we ever see him, and his first line in the whole series was "excellent bottom." And I just really like seeing how, like, at the very end of The Doctor Dances, he was about to die, like the ship was about to blow up, because like he had to, like the bomb that was about to hit, Jack beamed it up in order to stop, like in order to stop it from hitting London, but then it was going to blow up his ship, and he was saying, what's the chance that I get out of here? And the computer said 0%, but then Rose and the Doctor show up in the TARDIS and save him, and I thought that was really cool, how that was a way of introducing Jack as a companion. But I also really like just how it all happened. Like, it's meant to be really creepy. It's like you don't know what's going on. And then like how the whole thing was a misunderstanding. Like the empty child virus was being spread because the nanogenes crash landed on Earth. And they ended up healing that little boy Jamie. But he had a gas mask on. And they'd never seen humans before. So they assumed that that was his natural state. And then... so that's why like the gas mask was stuck, and that's why he was just stuck looking for his mother, because that's what he was trying to do upon the explosion, and that's what he looked like. So then because they saw, like because the nanogenes thought that's what humans are supposed to look like, they sought to try to go and correct the entire species, because they assumed that everyone was faulted, that all the other species, like every other human was injured or damaged in sorts. So then it kept spreading the disease. Like every time it touched you, it spread the nanogenes onto you. And then how, like whenever you saw the gas mask transformation on Dr. Constantine, that was actually really scary. And let's face it, like the whole "Are you my mummy" thing, that's something that people reference so much later. Like the 10th Doctor even referenced it, the 12th Doctor referenced it. Like they just keep mentioning it so much because it was such a scary thing. And then I just really like seeing Rose and the Doctor interact with Jack. How like Jack's kind of like, oh, I kind of want to help, but like how he's a con man, so he doesn't feel like he needs to. But then how the Doctor kind of convinces him, like, look, you need to help out. This is partially your fault. And then how they were trying to track the whole thing, and they had that girl Nancy helping them, and like she was saying that the gas mask creature was her little brother. But then it's like what happened was she was like too afraid to interact with it. But then the Doctor managed to piece it together, saying like, Nancy, you're older than you look, aren't you? You're not in your teens. You're actually a late mother. But because you had this child without being married, you were too embarrassed to admit it, because people, like, you thought that you'd be looked down upon for it. So you said that it's your brother. And he was saying, like, look, you need to confront him on this. Like, this is our only chance. The fate of humanity rests on your shoulders, because of the fact that the gas mask creature just wants its mother. So then Nancy comes up to Jamie and says, I am your mummy. I'll always be your mummy. So she embraces him. And then you see the nanogenes start to change Jamie, because the Doctor's saying that it recognizes the parent DNA because Nancy is Jamie's mother. So then it ends up fixing Jamie so that the gas mask comes off and he's back to his normal self. And then the Doctor was so happy that that happened. And then he managed to send out the nanogenes to correct everyone that had been affected by it, so they all turned back to normal. And then he said, "Everybody lives, Rose. Just this once, everybody lives." And I thought that was so meaningful, because after so much of what had happened to the Doctor, after the Time War, after so many other adventures where someone ended up dying, that was so special to the Doctor, where for one of those very few times everyone lived, no one had to die, there was no villain that he had to defeat, it was all literally just one big misunderstanding, and that just meant so much to him. That put him in such a great mood, and that was literally just one of my favorite moments overall, seeing how happy he was. That's what makes Christopher Eccleston so happy, and makes him such a good Doctor to me. And number 5, this is going to seem cliche, but it's got to be the Series 1 finale, Bad Wolf and the Parting of the Ways, because here we finally get to find out what happens with Bad Wolf, and it ties in so much what happens. Like, it turns out that the Doctor, Rose, and Jack get put in all these different game shows, and then the Doctor's put in Big Brother, Jack's put in this fashion show, I don't remember what it's called, and Rose is put on The Weakest Link. And then the whole time in the first episode, you see Rose trying to answer these questions, and some guy's like trying to help her out, but he's saying like, "Look, it's because you're stupid, so I know if I bring you all the way to the finals, I can easily beat you." So Rose is still trying her best, even though she's not sure how she got there or what happened to the Doctor and Jack. Jack, he's just going along with it because like he gets to try on all these clothes, but then he realized how it gets pretty crazy, so then that's when he decided to break out. The Doctor immediately knew something was wrong, so he's going through trying to figure out a way out, and then like over time he found out what was kind of going on, and then Linda with a Y, she ended up coming with him, and they were being told about how the people from the game station are always watching them, and like you can't break the rules, because they thought that the thing that sends people away is like a disintegrator beam. But then the Doctor and Linda get out, and then like they were saying, "Look, Doctor, you're gonna get destroyed," and he's like, "No, they want to keep me around for a higher purpose. Like, I'm here for a reason. They're not gonna kill me that quickly." So then he gets out and he starts investigating with Linda, and then like he's trying to figure out what's going on, and then like Jack ends up meeting with the Doctor, and they're saying, "Okay, let's go find Rose." And then they found out that she was on the Weakest Link, and they were saying, "No, she's with the android," which is like one of the most deadly things accordingly when you're on the game station. And then I also like the idea of how the Doctor realized that the game station was actually Satellite 5, because previously in the episode The Long Game, it turns out that the Jaggerfest was holding humanity back by how information was being fed to them. But then he was saying, "No, when I got rid of the Jaggerfest, that should have set everything right." But then Linda was saying, "No, that's whenever everything actually stopped. Like, that's whenever humanity ended up regressing and stuff like that." So the Doctor felt so terrible, like he came to this big shock that he realized that he's actually the one who held back humanity. He ended up messing all of humanity's timeline. Like, they weren't the fourth great and bountiful human empire anymore. They were all just being controlled by television and such. Like, humanity was being held back. And then they managed to get to the Weakest Link, and then Rose had just lost, so she was about to be disintegrated. She tried to make a run for it, but then the android ended up blasting her, and then the Doctor was just completely shocked, that look on his face when he thought Rose was dead. So then they got arrested, but then they managed to break out. So then they went to floor 500, where all of the people who were controlling it were, and then they confronted them, and then it turns out that they weren't the ones that were totally behind it. They had that one person, can't remember her name, isn't it the controller? I think so. Yeah, I think it is. But then it turns out that she herself was being manipulated by her masters, and then for like a brief moment, because of solar flares, they couldn't detect her, so she gave a warning to the Doctor about what was going on. And then she ended up getting transported away. And then the Doctor realized that was a teleporter beam, not a disintegrator. So they were saying Rose is still alive. And then in the meantime, you see Rose is on this ship, and something's approaching, and she gets terrified. But then the Doctor and Jack managed to trace back the signal from the transporter to find out where it is, and then cancel out the other signal that's covering up what's transmitting in the first place. And then this big shock on the doctor's face because he's saying, I know those ships. Like, I know those ships. There's like over 200 of them, like with over about 2,000 dogs on them, saying there's over like 500,000. And then like that big reveal though, whenever they were saying what's on those ships, and then he said Daleks, because of the fact that it's like everyone thought that the Daleks were extinct now, and then how the doctor realized, no, the Daleks are still alive, but it's not just one of them. It's like it's hundreds of thousands of Daleks, and how they're all about to descend upon the Earth. And then that whole speech he gave to the Daleks saying, I'm going to rescue Rose Tower, and I'm going to save the Earth, and I'm going to get rid of every single Dalek, and I don't even have a plan, but I bet that scares you to death. And then in the next episode, whenever Jack and the Doctor are coming to the Dalek ship and the TARDIS to save Rose, and they materialize around her right before she was about to get exterminated. And then whenever they go out there and confront the Daleks, and then the Doctor realizes that the Dalek Emperor was still alive on the ship. And then how he basically considers himself a god. And then how he was saying, how are there so many Daleks? And then the Dalek Emperor saying that they harvested humans from the show in order to turn them into Daleks. So then the Doctor's saying that he feels sorry for the Daleks because of the fact that they've literally been driven mad, because of the fact that they're part human and that they've been in solitude for so long. He's saying you hate your own flesh. So he's saying that makes them more dangerous than ever. Also, because of the fact that they basically worship the Dalek Emperor as a god, because he was saying, how did the Daleks have a concept of blasphemy? So just how, like, these are the Daleks more dangerous than they'd ever been seen before. I thought that was really big, and how the Doctor felt sorry because of the fact that they used to be humans. And then how he worked so hard to try to figure out a way, and then he realized that there was he decided to try to create a delta wave, but then he realized that it wouldn't be able to distinguish between, like, he didn't have enough time, actually, to make it distinguish between Dalek and human DNA. So the Dalek Emperor was saying, would you be able to do this? And the Doctor was trying to justify it, saying there are more humans out there in the universe besides just Earth. They'll continue to live on, but I could get rid of all the Daleks. And then how he was saying that he needed Rose to go do something, but then he forced the TARDIS back home because he was saying, Rose, because in the message he was saying, Rose, this is getting too dangerous. Like, I need you to go back to Earth. Like, this is something where I can't let anyone get their hands on the TARDIS, and this is the moment where I need to sacrifice myself. But like how the idea behind it is like, Rose, you shouldn't get caught up in this. So if you want to remember me, have a good life. And then how Rose was like so desperate to get back because she still wanted to help the Doctor. And in the meantime, Jack's trying to fight off Daleks with some of the humans. Then how in the meantime they just all keep getting killed, and then Jack eventually got killed as well, which I thought was really sad at first glance, where it's like, if you don't have foreknowledge. But then how Rose works so hard to try to get back that she ends up opening the heart of the TARDIS and looks into the time vortex, and then we find out that's the whole thing behind Bad Wolf. Like, Rose became the Bad Wolf whenever she absorbed the energy of the time vortex. So then she brings the TARDIS back to the Doctor. And then in the meantime, the Doctor is saying that he's going to destroy all of the Daleks before they can try to destroy him. And then the Dalek Emperor is saying, like, I'm immortal. And then he's saying he wants to see the Doctor become like him, the great exterminator. Because if he does that, then he'd basically just be like the Daleks, killing all those Daleks and humans. And then he's saying, are you a coward or a killer? And then you see the Doctor, he's so close to activating the delta wave, but then he realizes that he can't do it. Like, after what he'd already thought he'd done for the Time War, he's like, I can't wipe out all these humans and even all these Daleks because I don't want to commit genocide. So he's saying that he'd rather be a coward at that point. And then he's saying that maybe it's his time to die. Like, if he doesn't have the courage to do what he needs to do there, maybe at that point he deserves to die. Then how Rose shows up, and then she's saying, like, with all this power she has, she can bring life. So she brings Jack back to life, and then she shows that she can just, like, scatter the atoms of anything. She destroys all the Daleks, even the Dalek Emperor who thought he was immortal. And then how, like, all of that stuff that was in her head, the Doctor was saying it was killing her. So then he was saying, like, I think you need a doctor. And then he kisses her. Like, we finally got to see it happen. Like, everyone knew it was bound to happen. The Doctor and Rose kissed. And then he did that to absorb all of the energy from her. but then at the cost of him having to regenerate. So like you could tell that he was really sad, but it was kind of like bittersweet because he got to save Rose, and like he was saying, "Oh, we still have like we're still gonna get to travel together, but it's not gonna be the same." And like literally though, the Ninth Doctor's final words are so amazing. How he's saying, "Before I go, I just want to tell you you were fantastic," and then how he's like, "And so was I." Like just how for that one last time we got to hear him say fantastic, and then how he acknowledges that he was also pretty fantastic. So that's how he's going. So like how he acknowledges that he was actually really good as the Doctor, and that he's going to miss it. And I just thought that was really great. And David Tennant's intro, it's like it was really subtle, but I thought that it still did a lot. Overall, Christopher Eccleston, I feel like really is underrated as the Doctor just because he had one season. He did such a great job. Like if he hadn't done such a great job, the show would have ended after one season and we wouldn't be back here 13 years later still celebrating the show and its continuation. But that is definitely going to be it for my list. I feel like considering it is just one season, I feel like it's pretty common. I feel like there would be some overlap. But if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and hit that like button down below to show some support. Go ahead and comment your list if you have one. I'm sure there's some agreement, maybe some disagreement. Maybe you just don't like the Ninth Doctor. I don't know what's wrong with you. It's fine. I'm kidding. I'm not trying to roast you too hard. But if you enjoyed it, or if you enjoy any other videos I put out, feel free to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about more uploads. But with that, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.